Welcome to AASHTO Resource Q&A. We're taking time to discuss construction materials testing and inspection with people in the know. From exploring testing problems and solutions to laboratory best practices and quality management, we're covering topics important to you.
Welcome to AASHTO Resource Q&A. I'm Brian Johnson.
And I'm Kim Swanson. And today we have Mike Copeland from the Idaho DOT with us. Welcome, Mike.
Hi. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
The topic that we're talking about today is the use of AI as it pertains to the industry that we're in, which is construction materials testing. Mike has gotten involved with AI in his role, so I'm not going to define Mike by his position title, because that is a very unusual thing for somebody who is in construction materials to also be involved with. So Mike, can you tell us what your title is and what kind of work you do at the Idaho DOT?
Yeah, so I'm the quality program manager for construction materials group out of our headquarters office. I deal with anything quality assurance related on the construction materials side of things, and then I dabble with AI a little bit and just try to apply it to anything quality assurance or asphalt pavements related.
How did you start getting involved with AI in this capacity?
So kind of like everyone else, ChatGPT came out and sounded really cool. So I played around with it a little bit. But before that, I had gotten a little bit more involved with data science type stuff and a lot of trying to analyze our pavement data and like our construction data. And trying to get the data out of PDFs and things like that, because we're all, we aren't a paper-based system, but we scan all of our documents. So we're an electronic system. We don't have a LIMS system or anything. So all of our data is kind of locked down in PDFs. Trying different techniques to get that data out instead of just sitting there and 10 keying in numbers. Yeah, it got me involved with like using R or Python a little bit, trying to find various methods. And then generative AI came out, and so I tried ChatGPT and found it really useful for like a lot of different things, and then kind of found that it was also really useful once the vision models came out. So the ones that are able to look at photos or videos or things like that, it's able to pull information out of PDFs in structured ways. Like it's different than OCR, but it's kind of like OCR, but leaps and bounds better than OCR at structuring your test reports into something you can do analysis on.
So for those who may not be familiar with OCR is, because I totally know what that is, what does that stand for?
It's optical character recognition.
Oh, yeah, of course. That's obviously what it stands for.
That makes sense.
Makes sense.
Typically what people do when they move from one technology to another, you go from paper to PDF to then some sort of digital management, data management. I guess the normal thought process would be like, okay, well, I have this thing that can read the PDFs. I'm going to take it, have it do that, and have it create it into like digital, like transform it into like data storage and a database. But now with AI, you don't really have to do that anymore, but maybe you do it anyway, just for the sake of having that data. But did you go through that, or do you just use AI to read what's in the PDFs and not worry about that transition?
Anymore, I just use AI to read the PDFs. And if I have, sometimes, if I want to analyze multiple years of test data, I'll cycle through PDFs. So it does one at a time, kind of like big batch of PDFs. And then put it into like a data table or a CSV document or something, and then feed that into AI. But if it's just like a week's worth of production data, like for asphalt pavement, so you got all your test reports, you got your hot plant printouts, your 15-minute recordation, you got all your bill of ladings, all your daily work reports, things like that. You can kind of just drag and drop it all into AI and just start asking questions, and it can start. It can look into things. I mean, AI. It's when I say AI, I mean like generative AI, large language models, ChatGPT, Gemini type things. They'll sometimes lie to you. or make mistakes, do what's called hallucinate. So you got to fact check things. But generally, it does a pretty good job.
So what would, in a situation like what you just described, what would be a typical question you might ask?
Oh, it depends. If I want to extract out all of our, let's keep talking asphalt pavement test data. So we have source document requirements with like where everything has to be hand recorded onto a source document as the original source of record. And I would ask it to extract out all that data and perform the volumetric calculations or something like that. And it can definitely do that. Sometimes you have to test out your prompts. So your prompts are like the instructions that you're giving it. You have to test them out and try multiple times sometimes, but you can, especially in the last 6 months, as this keeps evolving, you can give it some pretty basic instructions, and pretty much any large language model will get it right off the first go for that kind of stuff.
You're largely using this for extraction of data and information from test reports, or how else are you using this in testing?
So I'm also like stress testing, or what I like to call like red teaming our quality assurance specifications, looking for weaknesses, doing the same thing with like test methods, or like, using it to clarify things, exploring ideas, like one-off proofs of concepts, things like that too. All kinds of different stuff. I've been testing it out a little bit with like old dispute resolution claims and feeding it all the data to see like, okay, how would AI respond? And a lot of times it's pretty close to what like a DRV board does. So it's pretty interesting.
I'm envisioning that compared to other DOTs and other in the testing world, that you're probably high on the adoption curve. Like you are, whatever that adoption curve would be for new technologies. Where do you think your peers at other DOTs are in adopting this kind of emerging technologies?
I think, and I've talked to a lot of other DOTs about AI here in the last 6 months. It sounds like it's a full range. Like some people have never tried it. Some people have, maybe tried it once when it was first released and thought, this isn't anything special. And then there's a few that I think are probably using it all the time and maybe not talking about it. I think us as an industry need to talk about it more, and because there's so much potential here with like how we can apply it to our everyday work. I mean, it saves so much time. I don't know that there's a whole lot of adoption.
Where do you think that would be the easiest for other DOTs and other people in your position? Like, what's the gateway, the gateway access to adopting this type of technology in testing and in quality and things like that?
Yeah, that's funny that you asked that. I was actually just thinking about this yesterday because like I've been trying to get some of my coworkers using it more to help them. I got to thinking about it. I mean, we've all worked in this industry for a while. We probably all are a little familiar with, contract administration, especially us with DOTs. I was thinking about it yesterday that kind of the way that you use an LLM. Well, first off, you just got to go use it and mess around with it. But you use it like you interact with it like you would interact with a contractor, and that whole trust book verified thing, and then just think of your prompting as the specification. So you're writing the rules, and then you're guiding the output. So you have to know the subject. To at least that's what I find is I kind of have to know the subject to really successfully use AI. Otherwise, it's going to hallucinate and make things up, and you aren't going to know. But if you know the subject, it could really speed things up for you.
Yeah, I know one of the things that people have been kicking around lately is using AI as I don't know if the word replacement is right, but a tool for replacing the physical testing of materials or specimens. What would you say about that, Mike?
So the other day, just in an afternoon, I was messing around with AI, trying to and some gyratory data, and I was trying to see if there is a way to take some of the subjectivity out of GMB testing, the SSD part of GMB testing for asphalt pucks, and had AI help me write a Python script that then did a multilinear where I kind of selected the variables that I thought might have the impact, and from all the other testing, so like T308, 166, GMM testing, and gradation, things like that, and see if I could come close to predicting the bulk specific gravity without doing bulk specific gravity testing, and used AI to write a script to scrape all of our central lab data for the last 5 years, and then parse out. Same thing with AI, used it to pull out all of our gyratory data and just kind of had this big data set, all from one laboratory, multiple gyratories though, and was able to build this model that was able to predict within the D2S precision. And that would have been within lab. But then I started comparing it to other labs, and you could see the different gyratories. These aren't companion samples or anything like that, but you could see the different gyratories, how they flex differently or whatever, how they compact differently. You'd see the differences between the models, but it was all within, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but around 99% confidence that the measured GMF or GMB would be within the 0.007, if I remember right, of the predicted GMB without doing GMB testing. So it seems pretty promising. So we started kind of using that as like a red flag diagnostic tool, but I want to look at it even a little more and start comparing more data, and maybe even consider, like, do we need to do bulk testing?
This is what I want to get to, because as a DOT materials testing lab, you're doing QA on projects, but you've just uncovered how easy it could be for somebody, I guess, on QC or QA to just make up numbers, right?
Absolutely.
That are plausible. That are plausible, which creates some risk because it's not actually tested and reflective of the material that the DOT is paying for. So with that knowledge, I mean, it's good. You've done the digging. You know how it works now. And so you're in a good position to be able to explain the concerns and the risks that there might be of somebody doing that. So with that, what do you do? What do you do with this information you have now?
I've been exploring risks a lot, and I think I'm of the opinion right now that our whole quality assurance system is it's out of date. It's got weaknesses. So it's all built kind of around a paper system that we've adapted to as we moved into the digital age. But as we moved into the digital age, now we have like CSV files, or we have phylograph files with an ASTM formatter. We got standards, and even we got some encryption, but playing around with AI, I've found that pretty much any of those you can sidestep, any security features, and pretty much game any quality assurance practice that deals with data. AI, it's not inherently good, it's not inherently bad, but if you give it technical instructions, give you the output. If you prompt AI right, you can get instructions. You can modify test results without changing any of the metadata, things like that. It's kind of scary. So I think we need to just rethink our whole quality assurance practice now that we're dealing with AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of wonder about that with the proficiency samples as well. Because, I mean, if somebody just imported all of the rounds that we have available and say, what answer would give me a satisfactory rating for all of these, I am sure that there are some numbers that would probably work. So it's going to be harder for us to tell if people are doing that. But the only thing that I would caution people against is one of the reasons why we have the proficiency samples is it eliminates the need for more on-site assessments, because it's like a check in between. So if you want to have us go to annual on-site assessments, then go ahead and cheat. And that's probably where it's going to go, is more on-site assessments, because then we can't rely upon the results from these checks done through the proficiency samples. So there, things are going to change as people are using these or misusing these tools. Other systems are going to have to adapt to account for that. And if we're not getting the quality that we're looking for, things are going to change. So what are some things when you've been thinking about all this risk, Mike? What are some things you're thinking Idaho DOT might have to do to account for some of this?
As we move into this world of AI, I've been trying to come up with some of those kind of answers too. Or in the past with quality assurance, at least in Idaho, and I think most other DOTs, we always focus on chain of custody. Chain of custody is a big thing, like material sample security, things like that. And I think we need to consider data security too. Like, do we have chain of custody on from the source to right now on this data? And if we don't, then we shouldn't be trusting the data. Stealing information is like a really big risk, like in cybersecurity. But data polluting is another big risk that was recently, I guess not really that recently identified, but it's been identified as like being a big risk and a growing risk. And I think that holds true to quality assurance and in our industry as well. Did the data change? Were those results adjusted or anything like that? And there's ways to identify it. I mean, you start looking for patterns or you increase your independent verification. There's definitely things we can use AI to help prevent the potential fraud with AI, but I mean, it's changing so rapidly. Every week there's new AI models released or new updates happening that by the time, I think it's like a continuous improvement process. We got to be on our toes and be kind of agile in the way that we're approaching this.
It's a great thing. Like when you're talking about rebuilding your quality program, I mean, how nice is it? Like for when I think about our accreditation program, if you're a new lab coming in, you could use AI to help you write your policies and procedures, and there's really nothing wrong with that. You can eliminate some simple errors and get something that's 80% there, and then all you have to do is go in and make it your, kind of customize it to make it yours, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But if you if you don't do that extra 20%, then you're probably going to have some problems because things aren't going to make any sense. But it can get you there, and I of course I could see a situation where we eventually use it to help with audits too, right? And that could save a lot of time too and be more efficient and perhaps improve the standardization, eliminate some of the subjectivity with audits. So like there's a lot of good things that can come out of this on all fronts, right? But we just have to figure out how we can use it. Were there any other ways you were thinking of using AI as a tool at the DOT?
Built a tool and then wrote like a report on it, and the whole time it took me was like 5 hours, and this was a couple weeks ago, and just like an afternoon I kind of timed myself just to see how long this was going to take. But I made a tool so we have our asphalt testing source document sheets with all the handwritten data on it, and I made a tool that's a drag and drop tool, because there's a lot of testing information on there that goes into it like an Excel spreadsheet. It's a drag and drop tool that you snap an image of the handwritten dirty sheet, upload it into this app, and then the app fills out the Excel file and saves it for you. And so automatically, so you don't have to do data entry.
Oh, that's great.
And then you go through and you make sure all the numbers transitioned right, but 95% of the time it's right, or it's really obvious when it's not right. So instead of like transposing numbers, AI doesn't transpose numbers. It might drop a decimal, or it might just skip over that field, but it's not going to transpose a number. So the errors are easier to catch than typical data entry errors you normally see. And it saves so much time. I mean, it takes 10 seconds to fill out a form from a source document instead of whatever, 30 minutes, 30 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, that's great, because then it's like you do that, you invested the 5 hours, and now you're saving time forever after that, right?
Right. And it's scalable. I mean, I gave this app to a couple people within our group to use, like our lab folks, and I haven't gotten any feedback yet, but it should save them a ton of time. And now if we scale this out to every tester in the department, we're looking at hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours saved annually,
Wow.
where they're able to do, something other than 10 keying in numbers.
Now, speaking of time savings, I want to ask you about the AI chatbot. That seems like a really good tool for getting answers to people quickly and hopefully accurately. Can you tell us about how you developed it and what you intend that to be used for?
I built that maybe a year and a half ago, kind of using an older, what would be considered now an older technology in AI. But at the time it was pretty new. And basically what you're doing is called RAG, RAG, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So it's taking all your data. So I put in like all of our specifications, all of our manuals, different memos, all of our research that we've done over the years, and put it into like this database thing. And so then when the user asks a question, it goes and searches that database, pulls anything relevant, and then takes all that relevant stuff, the question, and sends it to the large language model. And so now it's responding with all this context. And nowadays it's super simple to set those up. I mean, you can take your manuals and set this up and run it locally on pretty much any computer, 20-30 minutes maybe, to get something set up like on your own computer. Yeah.
And
with no
who's
coding.
using it?
We have it available to ITD employees. It's meant for like inspectors, testers, the resident engineer, and anyone else that has a question about our specifications internally, at least right now.
Yeah. So this is a closed system.
Currently, yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're saying currently, what's your plan?
I have no idea. I just, yeah. I could see where it could be beneficial for all kinds, industry, contractors and our consultants and stuff too.
Having like reasonable parameters to look at for data, or being able to save time on data entry, or just there's a lot of good, useful things, and being able to ask about your standards, like your state methods on something. Hey, what's that again? What does it say? How long do I do this for? And boom, you got an answer. I think that's really handy.
One of the really cool things about that chatbot, we have a lot of different manuals. And as we were testing out the chatbot and using it, asking questions, we noticed, well, that's not right. But then it would cite something in a manual that conflicted with another manual and made it really clear, like, okay, here's where we have conflicts in our current published documents. That's kind of been an unintended benefit of the whole thing.
That would be tremendous for AASHTO standards to use, like, because we do have, you were talking about bulk specific gravity and rice and all these, and there are all these, like, let's say an oven or a balance, these pieces of equipment that are used in multiple standards. Wouldn't it be nice to say, like, is it the same balance, or what can I use this balance for, which test methods, and see, and all of a sudden you can kind of figure things out a lot faster than if you were pouring through all of these documents on your own. Okay, so we're talking about standards now, so I'm going to ask you another one that is tricky. How do you deal with concerns about copyright, intellectual property, and personal information when you're using an AI chatbot or any of these AI tools?
I've tried using models downloaded locally, like onto my computer. They're pretty good. Obviously, at that point, all my data is localized to my computer, so there's no PII risks or anything like that. Right. Like ChatGPT or Gemini or any of the others that are out there. I really pay attention to the terms of use and how they're going to use my data, or if they're going to use my data. Yeah. And generally, the models that I'm using, which are a lot of the different models, they have opt-out options, or they won't use your data to use a certain platform. I make sure that I don't use a model or a site that's hosting a model that's going to be using data for training.
One of the things that came to my head when, Mike, you were saying it's identifying, like, the unintended benefit of identifying some discrepancies between your materials, or like the manuals and standards and practices, is that I think that would be very interesting for like the AASHTO or ASTM method versus the states that have their own methods for something, and to see really what's the difference and what is it not? Because I feel like there's a lot of times states are using their own methods when it's really not that different or not different at all from AASHTO or ASTM.
We've got all these different standards development organizations, including all the DOTs. And if you could dump all those state methods in and say, write a standard that incorporates all of these requirements, or give me a document that incorporates all of these requirements, and maybe it highlights the differences, and then you ask that, let's say it's Idaho, say, Idaho, do you really care that much about, like I'll pick some arbitrary thing that we were talking about today in one of my team meetings, which was the length of a spoon, which is an insane thing to specify. A really clear, like it has to be this many inches long. Is it okay if it's this, like if there was something like that, it's like, okay, how married are you to that length of the spoon? Are you okay getting rid of this and just getting along with everybody else and just saying, we don't need to do this? Well, you could probably identify those things a lot more quickly. Mike, do you happen to have the chatbot available on your computer right now that we could ask some questions? Oh, where you get to see it.
Yes, for those watching on YouTube, wow, you are going to have an experience. We're going to actually see the answers so you don't have to listen to it. So shameless plug to go over to YouTube so you can see these.
Does this chatbot have access to your like project data?
No, not project data.
Oh, not project. Okay, I can't ask this question then. I was going to ask it about something on pavements in Idaho. Does it know anything about, like, if you were to ask it how many miles of asphalt pavement need to be repaved in 2028 in Idaho, would it be able to answer that?
I don't know. Let's find out. Couldn't answer that either, but can I show you a tool that can?
Yeah. Okay, how many miles of asphalt pavement need to be repaved in 2028 in Idaho?
I'm adding use your search tool to find out.
Okay.
Seems like it helps it to remember that it's able to use tools when I do that. So now it's going to search the web because this probably is available on our website. A lot of times I look through the thinking that, like as I'm prompting, because I use these interactively, kind of back and forth with the AI. I find that if I look at the thinking or the reasoning of the model, it'll let me go back, or it'll help me find holes in my prompt, and then I can go back and edit my prompt. I guess after it's done running, it'll let me go back and edit my prompt and like rerun it, so I can fix my prompt and try different things and plug the holes so that it gives me exactly what I'm looking for.
Oh, okay.
I've also heard that if you ask like ChatGPT or something like that, is like act as a prompt designer. How would you ask this or how would you ask that? Like, and that can help you narrow down your prompts for that. If you just like ask them to act as a prompt designer, then it will help you formulate your prompts better.
Absolutely. That works really well.
Wow. So here we go. We got our answer, 151.4 miles approximately, with individual projects that need to happen and what needs to be done to it. Lots of seal coats going on in Idaho, it looks like.
It's citing its sources. Let's check out what it's citing. Yeah, 2025 to FY 2031 ITIP.
That's very cool.
So went out and found that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a good one. I can't believe it was able to be that exact.
There's a few tools and stuff that I think would be useful to share with people. So like the other day, we were looking at some split sample comparison testing, trying to figure out why the difference between labs. And I wanted to look at the gyratory data a little bit closer. So instead of like trying to plot out gyratory data, I made a drag and drop tool that you select a gyratory file and they'll plot it out. Angle, pressure, moment. And I have another version somewhere that like you can do multiple gyratory files. So I was able to just like create these cool visuals that then I screenshot and put into like my write-up on, okay, this is why the difference in the test results, because the gyrotories are compacting differently. But
Wow.
it's just like a drag and drop tool that I needed once, but now it's pretty handy. You can do this all day long. And this took like 10 minutes to build.
Wow.
That's really cool. And you're using, like, it's one of the concerns that I have just as a member of the public is when you were talking about like the possibility of that people might not actually perform the testing and just use AI to give you answers of like, yeah, this is probably what it will be about. Even if it's really accurate, that just like kind of frightens me. Like there's not someone actually testing it. But if this is just taking the data from the test or the results from the test and giving you a different way to look at it and interpret it, that I love. But when you were talking about, you know, like it's guessing like what this is, it's really accurate. I'm like, oh, that seems really not great. But again, I don't really know anything. That just is like me being scared of, you know, a bridge falling or something. I don't know, like that kind of stuff.
Can we go back to your in-house one for a minute? So I guess these models, they're able to pull information that you've given them, but they aren't necessarily storing their own information.
Correct. Yeah, it doesn't. This tool, it doesn't go out and search the internet or anything like that. It's answering just based off the documents I gave it, which is like our standard specifications and our quality assurance manual and our contract administration manual, things like that. So we could ask it about like past research project and what the findings were, or we could ask it, you know, something about aggregate requirements, and it'll know those things, but it won't know any of the anything that another user has asked it.
Oh, okay. Most of my questions are dumb questions that I thought would be funny to ask. So I don't really have anything interesting left to ask about the AI chatbot. Now that you've started using all these tools, I imagine that you have had interest. Well, I don't know how many people know about what you've been doing, but are you getting questions from other DOTs, from other departments within the state government of Idaho? Like, hey, can you help us with this? Can you tell us what you did? Are you being inundated with a lot of these kind of questions now?
Not a ton. I've definitely talked to other DOTs around the country and some university research groups, like how I'm using AI, and because they're like, how do we get into this? I'm like, just use it. But yeah, there's definitely been a lot of conversations with different groups, which has been really fun because like I share what I'm doing, and it's really interesting to hear what they're doing because I mean, I'm no expert. I'm treading water and drinking from a fire hose, and this changing every single day. It's always good to hear like, okay, how are you using it? What are you using it for? And what's successful for you? Like the other day, someone was telling me that they were using it to, instead of writing down test results, they were using it as, you know, dictating to it to like, okay, here's my weight of my rice bowl, and saying it out loud. And so not having to walk over to the pen and paper every couple seconds. Like it saves me hours every day. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, it's good to have conversations with people and see how they're using it and share what you're doing, hear what they're doing. It's also new.
Absolutely. And we are going to be seeing you soon at the AASHTO Committee on Materials and Pavements meeting in Hartford, Connecticut. And I think we're going to be talking more about this. And hopefully we can find out if there are any other people like you in your position at the other states that are also messing around with this, and see if we can start to get some best practices together and maybe even talk about it at the next AASHTO Resource Technical Exchange. I believe that you are going to be having a conversation with Bob Lutz of our office about potentially doing that. Hopefully we can get something going, and I think that would be a really interesting topic for everybody there. So for those of you out there who listen to this who also attend the technical exchange, that might be a good session in Kentucky in 2026. So stay tuned for that. And Kim, any last questions?
No last questions, but I'm going to start the plug early for the 2026 AASHTO Resource Technical Exchange, which will be March 9th through 12th in Louisville, Kentucky. And we're having a virtual technical exchange November 5th and 6th. They're both half-day events, and there'll be more information on our website about both of those events at ashtoresource.org/events. Here's your quality quick tip of the day. A common problem with QMS documents and records is that they're out of date. It may help to enter due dates and automatic reminders into calendars to help keep you organized, on time, and in compliance. You can learn more by going to the Re-University section of our website and check out The Road to Developing an Effective QMS articles for more information on this topic.
All right, thanks. And Mike, thank you so much for your time today. Good luck with all your future meddling with the databases and figuring out new AI tools. I have a feeling that all of the time that you're investing now is going to pay off for a lot of people moving forward very soon.
Yeah, this has been fun. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to AASHTO Resource Q&A. If you'd like to be a guest or just submit a question, send us an email at podcast@ashtoresource.org or call Brian at 240-436-4820. For other news and related content, check out AASHTO Resource's social media accounts or go to ashtoresource.org.